evening. Welcome to tonight's On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers. Tonight's show is 2 hours long and live, so if you have any questions for our guests during the show, text them to 87778 with the word EDGE, a space, and then your name, location and your message, and we'll try to pick up at any that really hit the mark. They're all charged at standard rate, so why not get ready to text? Tonight's show is all about a subject that should concern us all. Can it possibly be true that major pharmaceutical companies in league with powerful and wealthy individuals are trying to kill us under the guise of protecting us from swine flu? And is it possible that swine flu itself has been deliberately created to provide the excuse of a pandemic so that the World Health Organization can demand we all get compulsorily vaccinated with fatal results? Well, my three guests tonight are convinced that that is in fact what is happening, and they have filed charges with the FBI in America and in other places in an attempt to prove it. My guests are the Irish-Austrian journalist Jane Burgermeister, online from Austria, who has written for Nature, the British Medical Journal, The Scientist, Reuters, Health, and The Guardian, amongst others, and who started this series of amazing legal actions. And here in the studio we have Amanda Blake, the UK officer for the Jane Burgermeister advocacy group, and Paul Byrne, who is responsible for similar actions in Ireland. If you care about your own and your family's health, then this is a show you will not want to miss. What a show we've got tonight. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's say hello to Jane as well online. Jane, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Well, I think we better start with you, just in case we lose you. We're always a bit nervous about having phone links. So, Jane, do you want to give us a little bit of background about how you got involved in this subject?
Yes, I got involved because in February in Austria, Baxter contaminated 72 kilos of vaccine material with the live bird flu virus and nearly triggered a pandemic.
I think we need to rewind here a little bit. This is Baxter Pharmaceutical, is it?
That's right. They have a subsidiary here in Austria, and it's a Biosafety Level 3 facility, very high security standards. And it could not have been accidental that 72 kilos of vaccine material was contaminated like that. It must have been deliberate. And the World Health Organization supplied the live bird flu virus. That nearly triggered a pandemic, and there was very little coverage in the media of it. There was no side of an investigation, and because I've worked in the media and realized how filtered it is, I decided as a last resort to file criminal charges over the incident here in Austria to try and initiate an investigation. And the police here are investigating. And that led me to investigate all kinds of other issues, such as WHO, the pandemic plans. And the more I looked at it, the more kind of evidence that something wasn't quite right emerged.
Correct? Hello? Hello,
Hello?
Jane.
Hello?
Jane,
Yeah.
I was just saying that WHO is the World Health Organization, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So Baxter distributed this vaccine material, but it had live virus in it. Is that what you're saying? And this is an established fact, is it?
This is an established fact. They said it was an accident, but because of the Biosafety Level 3 regulations, it can't have been an accident. It must have been intentional. And if people had taken this vaccine material, they would have got the bird flu from the vaccine. This would have triggered a pandemic, and Baxter, on the other hand, has the contracts already sealed to supply the bird flu vaccine. Then a few weeks after this incident, the swine flu mysteriously appeared in Mexico, and Baxter and WHO began declaring pandemic level 6, which involves, among other things, measures such as mass vaccinations.
I was interested to read, and there is a website, isn't there, that you've just set up, which I've got here. This is www.theflucase.com. That's theflucase.com. And I was interested to read there and in other blogs and so on that when the World Health Organization declares level 6 pandemic, that they automatically have a great deal more power. Is this correct?
This is the case under the International Health Regulations of 2005. The World Health Organization acquires the power, for example, to instruct health services and security services on how to deal with a pandemic emergency. Crisis committees are set up in countries, and they take their instructions directly from the World Health Organization, and they replace the usual parliamentary process, so they can act unilaterally and independently, indeed, of the existing governments. So who more or less takes control of the essential functions of a government in the event of a pandemic emergency.
So is it like a kind of martial law?
Well, they don't explicitly say that, but the WHO is entitled to override civil rights to, for example, force people to go into quarantine, force them to take a vaccination, restrict their travel. In the case of France, I believe, from September, the country will be divided into defense zones, and there will even be an army officer appointed to deal with each zone together with the prefect of that particular zone. And that looks pretty much like martial law. Also, in Austria, I can say that the police and the army can be used to force people to take the vaccination. Also in Switzerland, this is the case. The army is already stockpiling vaccines and is preparing to force people to take the vaccines. The system is that if you get a call in Switzerland at some point from the police telling you have to go to a vaccination point and take your vaccine, and you refuse, the police will come and collect you and either force you to take the vaccine or put you in prison.
So is that going to be the case in the UK, do you think?
The UK, to be honest, I only glanced at the influenza pandemic plan. It seems to be incorporating many of the provisions in the international health regulations, including the creation of this civil crisis committee. But there is no explicit mention of compulsory vaccinations. However, I did see that in January, the Secretary of State for Health passed a law which said that if the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization makes a recommendation for vaccination, then people have to follow that recommendation in the UK. So it seems to be a little bit more of an ambiguous legal situation, but the door is open to mass force vaccinations, even in the UK.
OK, well, let's look at motive. I mean, because it's a very big ask, isn't it, for people, to be confronted with this. If this is true, it's huge, isn't it? It's absolutely a humongously large thing to take on board. So what is the motive? First of all, where's the proof that this is deliberate, that they're trying to kill us? And secondly, what is the motive?
Well, the proof comes in a number of components, including what happened with Baxter, deliberately contaminating material and so nearly triggering the pandemic. The legislation that has been put in place to force us to take the swine flu vaccination, the evidence that there is no swine flu pandemic, certainly not on the scale that should justify the declaration of pandemic level 6, and that the WHO is manipulating the data to ratchet up the pressure. And then fourthly, the vaccines themselves seem to be proven or very, very likely to cause harm, if not be deadly, not least because of the presence of adjuvants. A further element of proof comes in the form of two memos that WHO published in 1972, which outline the way to turn vaccines into means of killing people in 3 stages, and this involves weakening their immune system with the first shot, then injecting a huge dose of